your autograph, sir. I want to be a scientist just like you.
So Genius is the first scripted series for National Geographic. What led you to, to make it this one for you?
I read a great script by Noah Pink, and later revised along with Ken Biller, who's the showrunner of the series. Mm-hmm. And I'd long been fascinated by Albert Einstein, and I'd read movie scripts depicting elements of his life or his entire life, and none of it ever worked as a movie story in my mind. But the prospects of getting into premium television in this way with this character just was irresistible to me. Mm-hmm. And at virtually the same moment, because we have a relationship with Nat Geo, it became known to us that they wanted to make premium scripted series for the first time.
Yeah.
And we just said, here's something Ron wants to do, and what do you think? And they greenlit it like that. It was so exciting and thrilling. Ken Biller came in. There was this brilliant writer's room, Walter Isaacson's book, and suddenly, this room, it became kind of like, the scene in A Beautiful Mind with all the cards and the lines and so forth. But the writer's room just had Albert Einstein's life and other parallel, achievements by other scientists and the political movements and the impact on Einstein's ideas and his impact on them, and it just became this incredibly creative hub, all directed toward telling the story in 10 hours.
Nice. And it's funny you bring up A Beautiful Mind, because this series kind of reminds me of that too, in the way we see some of the Einstein actually figuring things out. Mm-hmm. What attracts you to making films about these sorts of intellectuals?
As a non-intellectual, non-scientifically focused thinker myself, I have learned that there are great human interest stories around the individuals who actually do have this understanding, and the kind of fortitude, and I'd go so far as to say often courage, to pursue these ideas, because they're almost always outliers, and there's always an element of emotional risk, and sometimes it becomes physical. Einstein was on hit lists. I had no idea that his story so reflected the required courage in order to realize his potential.
Gotcha. And Genius is an anthology series, so it sounds like future seasons could be about different people. Do you guys have a sense of who you'd be interested in doing later?
Well, we want to be surprising about it. We want to offer drama. We want to offer surprises, real insight. But I can tell you, it won't be Leonardo da Vinci. Although I hope the series goes long enough that we get to do Leonardo da Vinci.
But have a crossover at some point. Yeah. Speaking of your film stuff, you moved to digital filmmaking with Rush, and I love the way those cameras portray the speed of that film. Mm. How has digital filmmaking changed over the years for you?
Digital technology has made it possible to dream bigger, to come closer to realizing what it is that's in your mind. You can work more efficiently. It's not really so much that you don't have to stop to reload, a film magazine. You just that it only takes seconds to change a chip once in a while. It's not really that. It's really what you can do with the light later in post-production. It's the little challenges that used to be the enemy of creative momentum on a set are suddenly greatly diminished. So for me, as somebody who likes to work quickly, likes to connect with actors and then capture those moments, those acting moments when the actors at their peak, it's just making the whole process more dynamic and more exciting. And for some reason, at this point in my life, nearly 40 years into my directing career, I'm less exhausted at the end of a production than I used to be when I was 30. There are filmmakers. Can we call them filmmakers anymore?
Sure. Yeah.
Moving picture makers.
Sure.
That embrace technology, work it into their aesthetic in a more cutting edge way. I'm not I'm not one of those early
Okay.
applicators.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
It's so at the end of the day, it still boils down to, what are the themes, what are the ideas, who are the characters that are conveying those themes, why is that going to really engage an audience, and then I kind of allow the pioneers to sort of impress me, and then I take it and then apply it.
And you use post-converted 3D for Heart of the Sea. Any thoughts on 3D and how you've implemented that? Would you shoot in 3D at some point?
I'm pretty convinced from that experience, which was done as an afterthought,
Right.
That conversion would be the way to go, particularly for me and my temperament. Again, I like to go quickly, but I was very happy with that experience, and I was encouraged everybody that I knew to see In the Heart of the Sea in 3D if they could.
And can you give us any updates on Seven Eves, and can I call it your gritty Apollo 13 sequel? Because that's what it feels like.
Well, I love the book.
Yeah.
I love the book, and I've gotten to know Neil Stephenson. He's an incredible, brilliant guy, and it's a very ambitious project. We're in development on it. Bill Broyles, who was one of the writers of Apollo 13, brought the project to Imagine, and it's a blast to work on. And yeah, I love even though it's science fiction, I love the science element of it. And if I get to shoot it, I hope it will look and feel as absolutely as authentic as we managed to make Apollo 13 feel. I hope it will be as though all the events happened and a filmmaker came along and showed you, how it unfolded and why it unfolded as it did, and what it looked like and felt like to be there.
Nice. And what do you think of VR as a storytelling medium? That's been a huge thing here at South by for the past few years.
Well, Brian Grazer and I at Imagine are very interested in it. Brian is incredibly focused on it, and it's something that we really want to be a part of. We're exploring, we're meeting, we're signing the NDAs so that we can see stuff and understand what's going on. We hope to be more actively engaged even this year with some experimental projects.
Okay, and what do you think VR filmmakers need to learn, about adopting a whole new narrative medium?
It's not going to be a whole new narrative medium. There's needs to be a kind of an understanding between the audience, the viewer, and the technology that the storyteller will begin to understand. And when they begin to understand what that expectation is, what that possibility is, what the appetite is, how long should a story be, and those kinds of questions, the story, us storytellers will be very, very quick to pick up that ball and run with it, because there's some very exciting possibilities. And look, there's some limitations too, but as in every medium, the limitations also inspire real innovation. And so, I'm curious as hell about it and excited, and yet, I've had some dazzling experiences watching, but I'm not a game player.
Right.
So I haven't used it in that way, VR or AR, but I've had some great experiences, and yet, I haven't been moved to tears yet. Haven't seen a complete story unfold yet. And I think when we can achieve that, then audiences are going to have something to flock to.